Hi, everybody, and good afternoon. I'm News 13's Amy Hoyt, and this is 13 Now. Today, as you know, is the 13th of the month, and that means it is our Buddy Check Day. We sport pink as a reminder to help women check for lumps in their breast, to remember to do those self-checks so that we can get early detection and save lives. Every month on the 13th, of course, we bring you a special guest, someone who has survived breast cancer, who can share their story and maybe let you know things you maybe never thought of, or maybe you know someone who is going through it, and this will help you help them. You will recognize our guest today. She is the former mayor of Lynn Haven. She has the park named after her. She was also a Lynn Haven City Commissioner back in the late 80s, early 90s. Please welcome today Sharon Sheffield. It's so good to see you.
It's good to see you also.
We're so happy to have you here with us today. Now, you know, we've known each other for years. We joked earlier that I was a young reporter when you were the commissioner and the mayor and always granted us interviews. And so we've known each other for many years. But one thing I didn't know was that you are a breast cancer survivor, and you detected it yourself 13 years ago?
I sure did.
Tell us about that. How did you find the lump?
Well, I always check my body, and I was in charge of hostesses for a meeting that we were having in Orlando. And as I did my check that morning, I felt this lump.
Did you know right away? Did you guess?
I guessed, but to be sure,
Right.
I was traveling with cousin of mine, and once we got to Orlando, I asked her to check it for me also. And when she did, she said, there is a lump there. So I went on about my business there in Orlando, and as soon as I got back to Bay County, I went to see the doctor, and they sent me to Women's Imaging Center. When they did the test, and I was sitting in that room waiting for the results, the doctor came in, and you know, when you see a doctor like that, you know something is not right. So he told me what was going on, and I had to have a mastectomy.
What are you thinking, though, when he comes in to tell you that it's confirmed it's breast cancer?
I was thinking, is this really true?
Yeah.
Because I don't have large breasts. And one thing he did tell me is that because they were small, that I could detect it. So I felt good about that. But you know, when any doctor tells you that you've got cancer, it does something to your insides.
Sure. Yeah, it's scary. Nobody wants to hear those words.
No.
Let me ask you this, just to backpedal a little bit. You told me earlier you turned 80. God bless you.
Sure
you look
did.
Great.
31st of January.
So you were in your late 60s then, mid to late 60s, right, when this happened. And you had some health issues prior to that, other things. Did this run in your family?
No, and I've searched and researched, and I can't find anyone yet who had breast cancer in my family.
Had you had a mammogram prior to that?
Oh, yes.
So you were good about keeping up with your health?
Oh, yes.
All right, so now what happens? You go through the feelings and the emotions. You now have been told it's breast cancer, confirmed. Where do you go from there? How quickly did treatment take place?
The doctor told me I had to have my lymph nodes checked first. And I did that. And then he said, it's further than that. You've got to have it removed. So because they had done their work, then I knew that I had to do my work and trust and believe that the doctor knew exactly what he needed to tell me and that I would accept it. And I did.
Did you do the chemo first or the surgery right away?
I didn't have chemo. My doctor told me I didn't have to have chemo nor radiation. The only time I've had chemo is where I'm having it now with another
A different
illness.
type of cancer.
Yes.
But how soon after the diagnosis was the surgery? They removed the breast?
At first, they removed the lymph node,
Okay.
and then they removed the breast. And it was about 2 weeks after one was the other one done.
How was the recovery for that? Were you had to stay home, obviously, for some period of time.
Yes, but not long.
Yeah, knowing you, you're pretty
I'm a
bad,
very
too.
positive woman, and I have too much to do.
How did your family take it, your children, your grown children?
Well, they weren't grown then, but they sympathized with me and kept me positive.
And you have
strong.
daughters, too, now. Do you worry about them?
Well, I have one daughter, Charlotte.
Right.
I make sure that she has her mammogram every year to make sure.
Because it puts her at risk now.
Yes.
And did she take care of you?
She takes care of me. She takes great care of me.
How do you tell your family, though? Especially since we'll call you a grown-up when it happened. You weren't a young woman. So how do you tell them? How do they take that?
Well, I told her what the doctor had said. And because when I went to the doctor, I went by myself because I didn't think that it was going to be something that I needed someone there with me. And when I walked out the door, that was the only time that I felt I needed someone with me. But I didn't break down. I just told her what was going on.
You've always been a strong woman. Did your
I've
faith play a
tried.
role?
Yes, I believe in God. I told someone yesterday I would let nothing separate me from the love of God because He has been there for me through everything. And I've been through some things, but He's never left me alone.
And there's been no treatment then for the breast cancer? You just get checked every year?
Yes.
So you're past that 5-year time frame they give you?
Yes.
Right. So that had to be a celebration?
Oh, yes. Now, the only time that I really think about it is when I'm having my chemo now. I have to have blood work every week. And they can't stick me in the right arm or hand.
The chemo's coming through a needle?
Yes.
And what kind of cancer is this, if I can ask?
It's a multiple myeloma cancer.
But not related to the breast cancer?
Not related at all.
And
And I've had 3 people close to me who have died from it. But my daughter makes sure she lets me know, Mama, that does not mean that you're going to die from
Right.
it.
Of course not. Yeah. Well, we certainly want to keep you around a little bit longer.
And I want to be around a little bit longer.
Now, have you had the opportunity in these 13 years to talk to other women?
Oh, yes. And especially in my church.
Ah.
And I tell them it's important for you to check your bodies, period. You know more about your body than anybody else. You can go to the doctor and you can tell him or her what you think might be. But you need to be aware so that you can get checked and get the things done that need to be done.
Now, was all of your treatment, the surgery, everything done in Bay County?
Yes.
You stayed here. Were you born in Bay County?
Born and raised in Lynn Haven.
How about that? What do you think when you look back, like when you were younger and there were some other issues or you're raising your children, did you ever think breast cancer? Because, you know, we talk about it every month now. It's been going on for years here at News 13 with the buddy check and the reminders. But even as a young woman, I don't remember it being so prominent.
And I don't either.
No, just in recent, maybe
Just
recent,
in
last couple of
years.
decades.
You're right.
What advice do you have for women now who may not go and get those mammograms or forget to check themselves?
Well, I tell them that, do you want to live or die? And that should be an answer for you. So do what you've got to do, because it is so important.
Now, we find a lot of folks these days don't have medical coverage. Do you know anything about that? Do people ask you, well, what do I do? I can't get a mammogram.
Well, I tell people that as you save for other things, put some aside for that.
Just in case.
Just in case. Hoping you'll never need it, but just in case.
Right.
And then, Amy, also there are people you can talk to who can help you. Because when I was diagnosed with the multiple myeloma, I was told that my chemo each week was going to cost $1,000.
Wow.
And I knew I couldn't do that. That was not that money. And that faith that I've got in God, I used it. Because when I talked to the lady on the phone, she told me, I don't know. And then she said, let me call you back. In a few minutes, she called me back. She said, Ms. Sheffield, I found a foundation for you. And they have been handling this for me.
So there are ways
There
then
are
to get help.
ways,
You just have to
yes.
kind of research it.
That is right. And not be ashamed to ask.
I know it's hard.
It's hard,
Sometimes
but
it's
you
hard.
gotta do it.
Right.
Don't let pride get in your way.
Do younger people, younger women ever approach you and ask you about it? Do you have a chance? You know, as adults, we just talk to each other about everything now.
Mm-hmm.
But women seem to be getting younger and younger now, coming down with breast cancer, being diagnosed.
Yes, and dying.
What do you tell the younger generation?
I tell them that if it happened to me, it can happen to you too. So do what's necessary and want to live so that you can help somebody else know that it can happen to you, and then you can help somebody else.
Is there something I'm not asking you that about your experience or the breast cancer that you would like people to know about?
No, I think you've covered it. I just want to make sure that people everywhere know how important it is, because you can die from it, but you don't have to.
Right. Absolutely. Well, it's so great to see you. It's been a while since I have seen you, and so it's always good to have you in the studio, and we appreciate you so much for sharing your story.
Oh, I share it everywhere because I feel if I reach one person, then it's good.
Well, you've touched a lot of lives over the years, and now you're touching more. You know, they say God chooses his witnesses well.
That
He's
is
done that
right.
with you. Yes,
Just
ma'am.
got to listen to him.
Yes, ma'am. That's
And
true.
let me tell you something, one more thing. With the, I had a stroke 3 years ago, and it was, what's the name of that thing? Anyway, the doctor said it was the worst kind of stroke you could have.
Wow.
And I was on my way to the cancer office that morning to get my shot. Charlotte had left home going to a funeral in Quincy, so I was home alone. And my head started hurting really, really, really bad. And, you know, as I remember this, you know that spinning top?
Right.
That's where my head felt that morning. And a small voice said, sit down. I was in the kitchen. So I went to the dining room, and I sat down, and that same small voice said to me, I'll tell you when to get up. I listened. I read a book every morning. Jesus listens. And when I did, that voice told me, okay, go to the car now. Drive slowly.
You drove yourself?
I drove myself. And it was the same, it was Veterans Day, as a matter of fact.
In November?
And then when I got on Jinx Avenue, because we were living on the other side of town then, that voice said to me, pull off to the side of the road, turn the car off. I did that. And then the voice said, okay, turn the car back on and proceed down Jinx, because my doctor's office was on Jinx at that time. I did that. There's a traffic light there on Baldwin and Jinx.
Right.
Amy, there was not a car coming nor going. So there was the Lord still looking out for me.
He cleared the way, huh?
Cleared the way.
And you're okay now?
I was, yes.
Yes.
When I got to the doctor's office, that same voice said to me, let the windows down, turn the car off and lay it over on the horn.
And somebody came to help you? Yeah. Well, I'm glad that worked out, too.
Yes.
You're a strong woman.
They had to helicopter me over to Tallahassee.
Oh, you got a little ride there, huh?
Never ridden in a helicopter
No.
before.
Probably didn't care at that moment, though, huh?
I just knew I needed help.
Yes, ma'am. Well, we sure appreciate you sharing your story. You've been such a strong part of our community in Lynn Haven, and again, I remember when you were mayor. You were beating the odds back then. Not only were you female, African American, as a mayor in a small town back in the late 80s and early 90s.
Oh, yes.
How about you were setting the pace for the rest of us, and we appreciate you so much.
Well, I looked to you. I knew you then. And God puts certain people in your lives so that they can help you go through.
Yeah. Well, God bless you, and thank you again for coming out. And we wish you the very best as you go through this new recovery.
Thank you so much.
Sharon Sheffield. Next time you go to Lynn Haven, you go by Sharon Sheffield Park, that beautiful park. You'll know who it's named after if you didn't already know. And that's 13 now for today. Remember, buddy check for lumps in your breast. It's so important. Early detection is key.
Important.
We'll see you next time.